Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm doing some Machina test stands. I'm really excited this week guys, because this was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Tyler. And this deck is a really amazing deck that summons out some very large machine monsters to your side of the field, even playing one of the most powerful main deck monsters ever created in Yu-Gi-Oh! In the form of our Machina Ruin Force, which is an insanely powerful boss monster that's actually super easy to summon to our side of the field. So, without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of notifications squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name in the description of a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this, and definitely give Tyler some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's go ahead and pile shuffle the deck and see what we can pull off, because you guys know it's dad rule number one. You got to pile shuffle the deck, because if you don't pile shuffle the deck, you might brick, which is going to be very, very bad. So let's go ahead and see what we can do after we pile shuffle. And this deck is a really amazing deck that basically plays all sorts of really, really awesome machine cards in this deck. But we've kind of gone for a really interesting build of this. We're playing primarily traps in here with cards like Lord of the Heavenly Sky Prism, which is a great boss monster as well to include in this deck, and a trap build of this particular deck. If you guys would like to check out the deck profile, it is always down in the description down below for every test hand video. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck and see what we can pull off, because as I said, this deck goes into some really insane plays. So let's go ahead and see what we can do. So we're going to draw into a copy of Pot of Extravagance, which is really good right off the bat. A copy of our Gear Frame. This is full combo right here with just one copy of Gear Frame. A copy of Metal Cruncher, Overdrive, and a copy of Solemn Strike. This is a really good opening hand for this deck. You guys might be looking at it and going, okay, well, you got two normal summons, you got to draw two, and you have two cards that kind of interrupt. So, but that's a lot more than that. So let's go ahead and show you guys what we can do. So we're going to go ahead and activate the copy of Pot of Extravagance, because you always have to resolve Extravagance first. So let's go ahead and pile shuffle the extra deck really quick, because we don't want to hit multiple copies of the same card. We want to make sure that we have a Giganta X in the extra deck, because it's going to help us out a lot to have that card still in the extra deck. Even if we hit all three copies of it, we still have some really good plays that we can still pull off. So let's go ahead and see what we actually hit. So we're going to go ahead and go 6 right there, and we're going to go in for a Zeus, a copy of our Juggernaut Libby, Giganta X, 82, Giganta X, and a copy of Gustav Max. Thank goodness we still have one copy. We only need one. So we're going to get to draw two cards right off the bat off the top of the deck, which is going to be another Overdrive and a Fortress, which is really good and a really helpful play. So we're going to normal summon out that copy of Gear Frame. Gear Frame is one of the best cards to, or actually is the best normal summon in the entire deck, because it's going to give us a rank 4 play. And you guys might be looking at this being like, wait, where's the rank 4? You only have one. Well, let's show you. So what you're going to do is you're actually going to search out the copy of the Unclassifier, which is a really, really good card to be able to search, because it has a really unique effect. So when you search this card from your deck to your hand, but what it basically does is if this card is added from your deck to your hand, it has a very unique ability that if you add it to your hand except by drawing it, then you can special summon it to your side of the field. But you can't special summon monsters for rest turn except for machine monsters, and if this card is in your hand and you special summon it, or normal summon it, then you get to send a machine monster from your deck to the graveyard, which is a really good effect, because we're trying to get that copy of Ruin Force from our deck to the graveyard, which is actually right there. We actually have the Ruin Force right there that we actually are just going to immediately send to the graveyard, which is super helpful. So basically it's a special summon, and it's also a Foolish Burial, which is really good. Now I see two level 4s now, so we're going to go ahead and overlay both of these cards on our side of the field for the last copy of our Giganta X that we have. So then we're going to use its effect to be able to detach a material from it, and we're actually going to get a search of another copy of Gear Frame, which is super helpful to be able to add that copy of Gear Frame from our deck to our hand, because now we have another play going in for the next turn. Now it's really important that we actually drew into that copy of our Fortress, because now that we have the Fortress in the hand, we can actually just discard the copy of the Metal Cruncher and the Fortress, or discard the copy of Metal Cruncher to be able to summon out that copy of Fortress. And then you also have in the graveyard the copy of Ruin Force, which requires you to banish 12 levels of machine monsters to special summon it to your side of the field, because it can't be normal summoned or set. It must be special them from your graveyard by banishing machine monsters from your graveyard whose total levels equal 12 or more, which is pretty good. But it's very, very easy to summon because we're just going to banish a total of 13 levels and summon it to our side of the field, which is very, very nice that we already have our boss monster. And you guys might be looking at this card and being like, okay, it's a 4,600 attack point monster, but it's a lot more than that. This card is insanely good because what this card does is when a card effect is activated during the battle phase that your opponent activates, quick effect, pay half your life points, negate the activation, and if you do, half your opponent's life points. And if this card is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can special summon up to three of your banished Machina monsters whose total level equal 12 or less, which is pretty good that it basically replaces itself and stops your opponent from one battle phase effect. Now at this point, we're going to set our 3 cards to our side of the field, and we're going to pass over to the opponent because we've already established a pretty good field with a copy of Ruin Force, the copy of our Giganta X, and the copy of our Fortress, which is pretty good already. So at this point, once they go ahead and go, we can activate the copy of our Overdrive, which has the ability to target a machine monster that we control to special summon another machine monster with a different name from our hand or deck, which is pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and pop that copy of the Giganta X to be able to special summon out from the deck a copy of our Machina Citadel, or Machina Citadel, which is a really, really good card to be able to summon out to our side of the field because it's a very powerful monster, because it has a very awesome effect that basically it must be special summoned by a card effect, and then quick effect, you can target a machine monster you control and destroy that machine monster and all monster opponent control with attack less than or equal to that monster on the field. So if you want to, you can pop the copy of Ruin Force to be able to just destroy your opponent's entire field unless they have something that's bigger than 4,600, which usually isn't going to happen. So you have a lot of ability with this card. Now the copy of Overdrive will go to the graveyard, and you also have that copy of your Solemn Strike to be able to stop your opponent as well by just paying 1,500 life points. Now the effect of Citadel is a quick effect, which is really, really good about this card effect, to be able to just basically stop the opponent. So you can tribute off that copy of Citadel or pop it or destroy it or whatever with the copy of the Ruin Force to be able to destroy it with the effect of Citadel. And then you can special summon back the copy of Metal Cruncher, which will come back as a 2,800 attack point monster. And it also has the ability, if this card is normal or special summon, you get to reveal the 3 Earth Machine monsters, which is the big thing about this card, but it's also coming out at 2,800. Now I don't believe it actually negates the effects of those monsters because it just special summons them, because if this card is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can special summon up to 3 banished Machina monsters whose total level equal 12 or less. So it doesn't negate the effects at all. So we're actually going to use its effect to reveal 3 Earth Machines from our deck and be able to add one of them at random from our deck to our hand. So we're going to go ahead and reveal the copy of Gear Frame, and I'm going to reveal 2 copies of Fortress because Fortress is really good to be able to grab from our deck to our hand, and it's just going to help us out in the long term of things, which is what's really cool about this deck, because the Fortress is just such a good card. So we're going to go ahead and lay these right here. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right here. We're going to roll the Critias dice, and we're going to go 1, 2. We're going to be able to grab this card and add it to our hand, which is the copy of the Fortress. Now the rest of the cards, your opponent randomly adds one of them from your hand, and then you shuffle the rest back into the deck. So we're going to put all of these back into the deck, and once we do that, we've already destroyed our opponent's field, and we've stopped them with a Solemn Strike as well, which is pretty good. And let's say they pass back over to us. So we're going to go ahead and draw for turn into a copy of Urgent Schedule, and guess what? We have another copy of Overdrive that we can resolve by popping the copy of the Metal Cruncher to be able to summon out from the deck a copy of a Citadel, which is pretty good to be able to just summon out another copy of Citadel from the deck, because now we have double Citadel and we're able to go in for more plays. So now at this point you have 2 different options that you can actually pull off. If you want to be able to just normal summon out that copy of Gear Frame to your side of the field, you can just normal summon out that Gear Frame, and then you can special summon from the deck that copy of our Clasp, which is going to help us out to be able to just use its effect to be able to get that special summon and the Foolish Barrel, but it will lock us into machines, which is not that big of a deal because we have plenty of cards in the extra deck that we can still go for. Now I played 2 copies of Ruin Force in my build because Ruin Force is just such a powerful card, and I really don't want it to get called by the grave or any cards like that. So I play the second copy of it because I feel like it's an extremely important card for the deck, which is why I actually play 2. So we're going to use the effect of our two monsters, and we're just going to go ahead and link summon these two monsters away because we do play a single link monster in the extra deck, which is the double-headed Anger Knuckler. So we're going to summon out that card to our side of the field just to kind of clean up the board a little bit, and then we're going to use the effect of our Ruin Force in the graveyard to be able to banish our copy of Metal Cruncher and a copy of the Gear Frame. And once we banish these two, we're going to summon back that copy of Ruin Force to our side of the field, and then we can also use the effect of our Overdrive that has the ability that you can only use one effect of this card, or actually you can't because we already used the effect to summon out the Citadel, but next turn you can use its effect to be able to just immediately summon it back to your side of the field, which is pretty good to be able to just summon that card back onto the field. I really like that effect to be able to go in for additional plays, to be able to summon out your copies of your cards and be able to shuffle them back to draw a card. So at this point you have the effect of the Anger Knuckler as well, that during the main phase quick effects, you can send a monster from your hand or field to the graveyard and then target a level 10 machine monster in the grave and special summon it. So you can use that effect if you want to, if you do go ahead and get rid of those Citadels or one of those two Citadels on your side of the field. But you basically have pretty much a game right here because you can attack with all of these monsters on your side of the field and even the copy of the Anger Knuckler, even though it only has 1500. But you have this really insane field to be able to go in and just play and win. And you also have the copy of Urgent Schedule that you can resolve later if you do need to be able to bounce back your plays, which is what's really cool. I love the way that the traps just work in this deck because with all of the traps that you're playing, you have all those really cool combos that you can go into with your just normal summon of Gear Frame and then grab Clasp and summon it to your side of the field and then go ahead and send your copy of Ruin Force and then basically go in for a Garganta X and then get a search of another Gear Frame to go in for the next turn, which is pretty good. Like, I really like that combo and it's very easy to establish, especially with cards like your Trap Trick to be able to give you access to all those different traps that you need, and even some really powerful cards like your copy of your Heavenly Sky Prison monster to be able to back up all those trap cards. So let's go ahead and shuffle up the deck again and see what we can pull off for the next test hand. So we're going to go ahead and cut the deck this time and see what we can pull off. So we're going to draw into a copy of Redeployment, which is already really good, a copy of Torrential Tribute, a copy of our Gear Frame, Skill Drain, and a copy of Lord of the Heavenly Sky Prison. So this is very good. Right off the bat, this is very, very good. So we're going to go ahead and use the copy of Redeployment. I'm actually going to discard, say, I kind of want to get to my copy of Overdrive, so I'll probably discard the copy of Gear Frame, because Gear Frame is going to give me the most utility when it's in the graveyard. And this card actually is a very unique effect, that if you discard a Machina to activate this card, you can add any two Machina cards from your deck to your hand. So we're going to add Overdrive and the copy of Gear Frame, because that's what I really want to get to the most. And I really want to keep that Gear Frame in the hand, but I want to get that copy of Overdrive, because you can't add the spells and traps if you just discard any random card, but I really wanted that Overdrive. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and normal summon out that copy of Gear Frame and then special summon out the Dark level 4. And once you summon out that copy of the Dark level 4, it's going to send from your deck to the graveyard a copy of Ruin Force, which is going to be the main one that you're always going to send to the graveyard off the copy of the Dark level 4, which is just really, really important. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck now, because we're going to go ahead and go for more plays, and we're going to go ahead and Izzy summon both of these monsters together to be able to make that copy of the Garganta X. Detach a material to add a level 4 lower machine monster from deck to hand, which is going to be another copy of Gear Frame to go in for another turn with that play, which is just super helpful to be able to go in again next turn. So at this point, you can go ahead and reveal that copy of the Lord of the Heavenly Sky Prison. Just reveal it to your opponent and go, hey, I have it. When it stays revealed until you activate a trap card or a set card, which is really cool. So they're going to go ahead and go, and then at any point you can activate any of these three back rows that you want, from the Torrential Tribute to Board Wipe, to be able to activate the copy of Overdrive to special summon another monster, or even the Skill Drain to lock your opponent down. I usually like to save the Skill Drain until after I've activated the Overdrive, because at this point you can use the copy of the Overdrive to special summon out the copy of the Sky Prison, and then you can actually use the effect to be able to summon out a copy of Citadel to your side of the field as well, which is pretty good. So you're going to go ahead, and this is going to reveal, and you're going to go Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2. You target this card on your side of the field, and then your effect of your Sky Prison will activate, special summoning itself to your side of the field, and then you're going to get to be able to actually set any spell or trap that you want from cards like Imperial Order, if it's still around the next format, your copy of Trap Trick, your copy of Ice Dragon's Prison. You have all sorts of different cards that you can actually just set to your side of the field. Just anything that you need. Basically, any card in the deck. You can basically grab another copy of Overdrive if you want that second copy of Overdrive. I don't feel like I really need it. So I'm going to grab a card like, let's grab Pot of Extravagance, because then I get to draw 2 more cards next turn, which is going to help us out a lot. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck. And now that we shuffle up the deck, you can actually resolve the copy of the Overdrive. And Overdrive is going to then be able to pop the copy of our Giganta X. And then we're going to get to special summon from the deck the copy of Citadel, which is going to just give us a 3k attack point monster. And both of these are level 10s, so you can actually make a copy of Juggernaut Libby or Gustav Max if you want to. But you have to summon like Gustav Max first and then go into Juggernaut Libby. So this card is going to go to the graveyard, and now that we have this set up, we have the copy of Extravagance for next turn, we have the Skill Drain set, we have the copy of the Torrential Tribute. You have a really good setup right off the bat. And you have the copy of Gear Frame that you can normal summon next turn to go into your next play. So if your opponent summons anything, really, you can just Torrential Tribute them and board wipe your monsters, which is not that big of a deal because you've already got the Citadel set up. And you have the copy of Ruin Force in the graveyard as well. And you do have 12 in the graveyard with the 3 level 4s, which is pretty good. So if you just want to be able to go in for additional plays in OTK, you can just drop the copy of Skill Drain after you set this field up. And when you go into the next turn, you're going to go ahead and draw. And then we're going to immediately resolve that copy of Pot of Extravagance, which it doesn't matter because we're under Skill Drain anyway. So basically we just have to summon the biggest monster to our side of the field, and then our opponent has pretty much lost, because we're going to go ahead and banish those cards and draw 2 more cards, which is an Imperial Order and an Overdrive. And we can just go ahead and set all 3 of these to our side of the field, which is really helpful just to be able to get all that back row. And then we're going to go ahead and banish from the graveyard all 3 of these cards. And then we're going to summon out the copy of Ruin Force, which is a 4,600 attack point monster. Switch that copy of the Lord of the Heavenly Sky Prison to attack position. And then you can just attack with all of these monsters and pretty much win, because you have like 6k damage here. This is like 10,600 on board. And you can board wipe the opponent if you needed to at any time, which is what's really neat on the Sky Prison. And then this is still like 76, and you can normal summon out the copy of Gear Frame as well as soon as that copy of the Sky Prison summoned to the field, which is pretty good. So that's a pretty good setup to show you guys. Let's go ahead and do one more quick test hand and see what we can actually pull off. I really like this list that I've come up with because it's just a fun deck. Like, it's really fun, and it just establishes some crazy good plays. The only downside is if you don't open up like Metal Cruncher plus a copy of or Metal Cruncher or a copy of Gear Frame, you kind of have to back up and kind of look at your hand and be like, okay, maybe I can Fortress out, or maybe I can just Sky Prison. But you have some really good plays that you can still make even if you don't draw into the Gear Frame. But usually you have like 6 normal summons, like 6 really important normal summons in this deck, but you also have the copies of Redeployment that are additional searches, which is helpful as well. So let's go ahead and draw and see what we can pull off. So we're going to draw into the Metal Cruncher, the copy of Metal Cruncher, a copy of Trap Trick, Solemn Strike, and a copy of Sky Prison. See, even if you didn't have this, this is still pretty good because you have the copy of Strike, and then you can resolve, summon him, and then go off, which is pretty good. So let's go ahead and normal summon out that copy of Metal Cruncher, and once you summon out that Metal Cruncher, you can reveal 3 from the deck, which we're going to reveal the copies of our copy of the Dark level 4, and then we're going to reveal the Gear Frame as well. So we're going to go ahead and reveal all those monsters to be able to just get out our copy of the Metal Cruncher from the deck and be able to go in, or be able to reveal them with the Metal Cruncher to be able to get the Ruin Force out of deck. So we're going to go ahead and set these cards face down, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're going to go ahead and roll the Critias dice this time, and we're going to go ahead and hit the copy of this card. So since it was added from deck to hand, it's going to Spectral Summon itself and send that copy of Ruin Force from the deck to the graveyard, which is important because it only can Special Summon itself from the graveyard. So at this point, you're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck because those cards go back into the deck. We're going to go ahead and put this dice back here, set our 2 cards, and then if you want to, you can actually link summon these 2 cards away and summon out the copy of the Double-Headed Anger Knuckler, which is why I play it as a 1-of in here, which is just helpful to be able to get those monsters off the field. And then you can use the copy of the Sky Prison, reveal it in your hand to your opponent. It stays revealed until the next turn. And then when they do anything at all, you can just activate the copy of Solemn Strike and then special summon out the copy of Sky Prison once the copy of the Solemn Strike is done. And then you can actually activate the effect to be able to set any card that you want face down. It doesn't super matter what it is, because this card is really awesome. Like, being able to just reveal this card and then you can reveal any spell or trap and then set it but banish it during the end phase of the next turn is just really good. So we're just summoning this to our side of the field. And once we do, we're going to be able to just immediately set anything that we want from a redeployment to get us additional searches, but we already have another Metal Cruncher in hand. And you also have set that copy of Trap Trick that can grab you any trap that you want as well, which is just really good. But you can grab like a Powerhouse card, like a copy of Skill Drain if you want to grab like the Skill Drain, just because you know that your opponent is not going to be able to deal with it. And it's just really good because it does banish it, but being able to just set that card directly from the deck is just really good to be able to get that card. You can also get the copy of Extravagance. Like, I like to usually get Extravagance or the copy of Redeployment because then I know I'm going to get a search. So let's go ahead and grab the copy of Redeployment, just to show you guys what that's going to do with this particular setup. Then you can activate the copy of the Trap Trick, and the Trap Trick is going to banish our copy of Overdrive to set a copy of Overdrive face down, which is just a really good play because you have the effect to be able to pop the copy of the Double-Headed Anger Knuckler. And then once you do, you can just immediately activate it to be able to pop this card on your side of the field. It can be any machine monster and summon out that copy of Citadel from the deck to your side of the field. And then we've established that field all over again where we've got the insane plays. So at this point, you're basically going to pass. Your opponent's still going to pass back over to you. Even if they board wipe you, you still have the copy of Metal Cruncher in the hand. So let's just go ahead and say they do board wipe us. Let's say they get rid of our whole field, and we go ahead and go for next turn, and we draw into a copy of Fortress. So you have that copy of the Redeployment, so you can just discard the copy of the Metal Cruncher if you want to, or the copy of Fortress. It doesn't super matter which one you actually discard, but let's go ahead and discard the Fortress to be able to get that search. So we're going to go ahead and search from the deck a copy of our Gear Frame and a copy of, let's see, let's grab a copy of Overdrive. Let's grab another copy of Overdrive. So we're going to grab that to our hand, and we're going to go ahead and set it to our field. Normal summon the Gear Frame, special summon the Dark level 4 to our side of the field, and once we summon that card to our side of the field, we're then going to send an additional Ruin Force to the graveyard. We're going to overlay both of these together and summon out a copy of Giganta X, and then we go full combo all over again, where we're just going to search another copy of Gear Frame, and then we've already got this set up again, which is really good. And then we're going to go ahead and banish the level 4s from the graveyard because we're going to get those special summons, which is just helpful. Banish these two from the graveyard instead, and then once you go ahead and banish these, you're going to special summon back that copy of Ruin Force to your side of the field, and then you've already established your field all over again, which is really good. So I think that pretty much shows that the deck works, and it's really amazing. I love this deck because it just is really easy. You can even not be done yet. You can use the copy of this card to discard any machine monsters that equal at least level 8 or more to special summon this card from your hand or grave. So you can actually discard the Metal Cruncher and special summon back the Fortress on top of it, which is what's really neat, because now you've established Fortress, your copy of Ruin Force, Giganta X, and a copy of the Citadel in the graveyard already, because Citadel is really neat, because if an Earth Machine monster you control except this card to destroy a battle or by card effect, then you can special summon this card back to your side of the field, so you've already established it again with the copy of Overdrive, which is really good. So you have this insane board setup, and then you can attack with your copy of your Giganta X, and during main phase 2, if you didn't take your opponent out, you can actually just summon out the copy of Zeus on top of it, and it's already a double material Zeus, which you can just basically detach and then board wipe all these cards on your side of the field. And then once you do, you have the copy of Ruin Force in the graveyard that just resolves all over again. And then since this card was in the grave, the copy of the, actually wasn't destroyed, it was sent. So you're actually going to be able to use the copy of Ruin Force all over again by banishing a copy of each of the 2 dark monsters, which is the other Ruin Force, and special summon it back, which is just insane that you just get it all the way back all over again, which is what's really cool during the next turn. Like, that's really good. And then you can normal summon out the Gear Frame and get another search of like a Fortress or anything that you want, which is just really fun. Like, I really like this deck. So I think that's going to do it for this one, guys. It's a really fun deck to play around with. If you guys would like to check out the deck profile, they're always down in the description down below for all of the test hand videos. And as you guys can see, the deck works. It's really fun. I love the way that it plays. how easy it is to establish all the different plays in this particular deck, and how easy it is to pull off your copy of Ruin Force, which is an amazing boss monster to be able to establish over and over and over again. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.